I think that the album came from a period of, I suppose, us retreating a bit and taking some time to regroup and figure out our next move. So we were sort of taking a bit of a break from the band, and I think that what came from it was dealing with kind of self-acceptance. I think that's quite a big theme running through the album. And self-understanding, and definitely some frustration came from it as well. We had a period where we didn't have writer's block, but we weren't being very creative, and I think
I had writer's block. You not so much.
When you're supposed to be someone that is creative and you're not feeling creative, it can feel like you're kind of failing at what you do, and you feel frustrated, and you feel kind of, I think your self-esteem can go down because you think, well, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing if the one thing I'm supposed to do I'm not doing, then who am I?
You kind of question everything about your life, and I think we ended up doing that, really, questioning everything and reevaluating everything. And I think the songs have really reflected that as well. There's a lot of searching and trying to find your way, and self-acceptance. And
I think between the last record and this record has been a big period of change for us as individuals and as a band. And the last album we had our sister Emily on, and she does feature on this new record, but she basically wasn't involved from the beginning, and she came on at the end and sung on a couple of tracks, which was great. But this is the first album that we'd really done just as a duo. So that was another thing that, I think it really did kind of feed into the songwriting, because it was just the two of us. And it was something that felt really good and it felt positive, but it was still a big change. So I think we were just, I think kind of change is definitely a big part of what influenced the album. It happened, well, we all learned instruments when we were children in school, and I don't think any of us really enjoyed it. So it was like, playing the flute and the clarinet and things like that, and our parents being like, you have to practice. And so I think that we did that as kids, and then we all kind of left that behind and didn't pursue it. But so music was fun when it was something that was casual, like basically singing along to songs that we loved, to pop songs, singing along to the radio. Our parents were always listening to records at home.
They had really good music taste, lots of 60s and 70s music, lots of kind of Laurel Canyon folk, and lots of
the Beatles,
loads of Beatles. And I think that we kind of soaked that in through osmosis, and lots of 70s pop as well, lots of Motown. And
so I think the root of everything came from singing together rather than being instrumentalists first. And
we just associated it with, that's a fun time when someone brings out guitars and you get to sing together. So I think that's when we first thought, like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if one day we could do that? But we didn't take it seriously for a very long time.
And I think that we're really close as sisters, and still are. And we were very close growing up. And I think when you're a close-knit family, I mean, you see it also with friends, you kind of have so many kind of in-jokes with each other. And we'd always be like quoting film and TV and like making our own little language almost to talk to each other with. And then I think singing in 3-part harmony became an extension of that, of like another way that we could communicate in our own sort of special way with each other, that it was just like a way of understanding that we kind of didn't need to really explain or break down. It was just something that felt really natural, and was always fun. And it took a long time for it to become what we actually did as a profession. And I think the thing we were always afraid of is, would it become less fun when you take it really seriously, and suddenly there's things like you know, contracts and money and responsibilities. And so I think, you know, there's definitely a balance to be struck between keeping it fun, and we always try and remind ourselves, if it ever gets stressful, that the reason we're doing it is because music is fun.
Yeah.
That's why we do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sometimes because we know each other very well, sometimes I think because we know what's been going on in each other's lives, sometimes it's very easy to tell, like, oh, this is about this thing, and often it's kind of not even really spoken about because it's just so understood. But I think it's been nice that there definitely have been times when we have kind of written something and the other person's really felt like it was about a certain thing and it wasn't about that thing, but each person has taken their own meaning from it. I think because again, there are fewer people now, I think because it is such a personal thing and kind of therapeutic and expressing yourself and working through sometimes difficult things and feelings and experiences, I think it's important for us to be able to have our individual voices and our joint voices. So sometimes it feels like we can talk about what we're trying to say in the song and kind of do it together, but sometimes it feels like I want to give you privacy or vice versa.
Yeah, it's quite instinctive, I think, how it works with each song, and it's slightly different. And sometimes when you're thinking about, you know, you're framing something in a certain way to you, to the other person, they might be interpreting it differently, and that can be really good creatively because you might come up with a line that I never would have come up with because you were relating it to it in a different way, and then it's like, oh, actually, that kind of makes sense. And you know,
not being too prescriptive too early on.
You can learn more about the song from the other person's input as well. When you know someone really well, you can be kind of more frank with each other.
Yeah.
They say, like, familiarity breeds contempt, you know, and sometimes you can be, you know, you can be mean to the people you love sometimes more than you would be to someone that's more of a stranger. But I think that one thing that we've never done is say to each other about an idea, like, I hate that, or that shit, or that, you know, because you have to always respect that even if it's your sister who you know so well, they're still bringing something to you that is very exposing. And I'd be the same with a stranger, but, you know, I think that's something that I think, you know, you have to be supportive in that way. And you can find ways of saying, you know, I don't think that works, or maybe this, maybe that, but yeah, I don't think we've ever been in a situation where one of us has, like, been mean about the music
and really hated what each other's doing.
But I think some people are.
And some people are very cutthroat, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Gallaghers.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's two of us now, so hop, skip and a jump away.
And, like, you know when someone doesn't like something, I can tell, but there's a difference between, saying, like, that sucks, and being like, okay.
Yeah. But also in terms of just kind of general support, even though I suppose maybe this just goes for people in bands in general, but if it is, the music we make is emotional and self-confessional and all that sort of stuff, and I do think just by virtue of helping someone voice that or write that and then perform it with them feels like an act of support in itself, you know, like you've got someone there who's bringing themselves through it with you and helping give you a voice, which sounds really cheesy, but it is true. Even just that as an act is support.
Yeah, and I think when you're on stage and you're singing to an audience, and sometimes even your band, like, they may never really know what it is you mean, and so I always know when I've got you there. It does sound really cheesy, but it's like we've got each other's back.
Yeah. I think that we, with Emily taking this step back, it kind of forced us to reevaluate and kind of relearn what our process is now. Because we always had her around, and you can get used to not only the creative dynamic but the family dynamic and how that works. So having that element taken out, we kind of had to just be like, well, how do we want to do this now? How do we want to be artists? How do we, not starting from scratch, but to an extent wanting to make it like a bit of a fresh start. And it's been really healthy, I think. Again, giving each other space as individuals, and yeah, the dynamic has changed, but it's good.
I think as well, and we've said this to her as well, that it can be easier when there are fewer opinions. Sometimes you can just make a decision a little bit quicker. And that's kind of been a good thing to come out of it, which isn't really personal to Emily, but it's just sort of in general when there are more voices and more opinions to be heard. So there's been some things that, it just sort of like, yep, do that, great, done. True. That's a good thing to come out of it. But yeah, I don't know. I think we're still kind of trying to understand how it's changed. Mm. And I think in some ways, you know, we've done things where, you know, she wouldn't be in the studio for some reason or other, and we've worked together like that before. So in some ways it's not that different, but it's more, I guess it's more like that all the time now.
It's a nightmare. Yeah. It's a living nightmare. So that came from a period where I felt like I was just unable to write any music, and I just kind of was in this like paralysis of being like, oh my God, I've got loads of feelings, but I don't know how to just make that first step of starting to write. And it's a really like debilitating feeling, like you were saying earlier on, when it's like that's supposed to be who you are and what you do, and when that's taken away, like what is anything? And basically because of that, I think I felt very frustrated, and also started to kind of reevaluate like how people express themselves, and so much of that is so so kind of manufactured or commodified now, like with social media and things like that. I was looking at, you know, how can I talk about things that are troubling me or my sadness or something, and seeing all these people kind of, I don't know, it's like talking openly, there's a lot of strength in that, and that's a good thing. That's not something to try and stop, but I think that now it's almost got to a stage where it's a bad thing to not be shouting from a mountaintop every single one of your feelings and posting pictures of yourself crying and things like that. It feels like, I don't know, I kind of zoomed out and thought like, I have no idea what the right way to be is. Like, am I being sad wrong? Am I being happy wrong? And I don't know, it felt like there was a lot of expectation to be doing things right, and also to be happy and empowered and be having the best day ever. And when you're not, you can feel so isolated. And the song was kind of I suppose a stream of consciousness. It's very wordy and it's very kind of persistent in the way that it's written, and I wanted it to be like a bit of a kind of maddening inner monologue of things.
It's a bit like information overload, isn't it?
Like lots and lots of things, and then I guess the chorus is just a bit sarcastic, of just kind of like, isn't it great? Isn't it awesome? And
we should all be excited all the time. Like, come on!
Because everything's perfect now, isn't it? Isn't it so exciting? But yeah, it was just kind of an inner monologue, and then being a little sarcastic shit as well.
Well, now we can be the boss and we can be like, oi,
yeah. Do this, do that.
Show up, don't be late. No, I mean, we made the album in LA last year with John Congleton, the producer, and we'd worked with John on the last album, and he's brilliant. And we finished it in LA, and then we got back to London, and there were 3 songs, and we felt it would be really great to have Emily's voice on them. I mean, it would be great to have her voice on everything, but I think with those songs in particular, it felt that they were about kind of shared experiences between the 3 of us. Yeah. And yeah, I think emotionally it felt like it would be great to just have her there with us. And she couldn't come to LA because she'd just had a baby. So she came to the studio in London, and when we were finishing doing the final touches, and she sang on those songs, and it was just great. It kind of just felt great to have her be a part of everything, because she's still, even if she's not on the record, you know, she's so supportive, she's so excited about everything we're doing. Yeah. She's like the #1 fan of what we're doing, and so I would have felt like she was still kind of in it anyway and involved in it in some way, but it was nice to literally have her on those 3 songs. So yeah, she's on a song called The Echo, she's on a song called I'll Never Leave You Alone, and Recognise. She's on those 3. Nice. Yeah.
If anyone feels a bit less alone, or identifies with a song or a theme or a line or something in any of it, I think that really is just the most important thing. And we of course want to be able to just keep doing this and making music and kind of having connections with people like that. But that's the most important thing, and kind of thing that lasts and matters and makes a difference in people's lives. So that would be my wish for the album, that someone hears something in it and says like, yes, that's exactly how I feel, and someone said it, because you know how that feels when you hear that in a song of like, yeah, someone's nailed it. That would make me very happy.
Yeah, and I think, you know, when we make albums and we write songs, we're really trying to search and say what's really truthful to us. We're not fucking around, and we're not just making like fun, breezy music. Maybe we should, but we're...
You could make some money actually.
Yeah, good point actually. But we are, you know, we are kind of bearing our souls, and so I think that when you can connect with someone, it does feel like it was worth doing it. You know, I like to think that we would still do it for ourselves, but you know, we do want people to listen and to make that connection. So yeah, I think for people to not feel alone, and I also think that despite the record being from this period of angst and frustration and searching, there is hope there. Yeah. And also a sense of acceptance, and therefore ultimately peace. So I hope that people pick up on that too.
Yeah.